everybody. Welcome to the TraderMerlin show. It is your, I don't know what day we're on, Thursday? It's our Thursday edition. Hope you're all doing well. Very exciting day today, which will make it easy for the topic for the show. We're going to talk about the major headline, which is Ripple beats the SEC. The Securities Exchange Commission lost. This is like a down goes Frazier kind of moment where the big juggernaut financial powerhouse that is the SEC, I can say financial powerhouse, but the big bully out there that is the SEC, losing a court battle. You don't see that happen too often, and I'm sure that they're going to try to do some appeal or something. But great news. It means big things for the crypto industry. And the crazy part is it took a single judge, faced with all the information, it took him, 2 years to come up with a decision. Yet, again, I always make this argument that Gary Gensler and his 3,000 plus employees couldn't come up with a definition of what a security is in the same amount of time. So kind of crazy. Good news for us that are in the crypto space. So I'm going to start there. We'll look at the crypto world. We'll see what this might mean for the crypto industry. Obviously, if a federal judge looks at all the evidence, says you did not sell unregistered securities to the public. Now, it's kind of a split victory, because apparently those of us who bought tokens, Ripple didn't receive that money because we bought them from an exchange. Ripple's not getting that money. So if they sold directly to the consumer, let's say that they did, like say an ICO and they collected money directly from people, then that might be considered an unregistered security. However, because most people bought it through an exchange, which was those money did not go to the underlying business, then the judge said it's not an unregistered security. It's really good news. What it'll mean is the way that companies list going forward and how they sell their tokens initially will be the area of scrutiny, and they'll probably just put those onto an exchange or sell it to an exchange. Not sure how that's all going to work going forward, but the great news is that Ripple beat the SEC. So let's run through just the crypto markets here. I'll start with Bitcoin. Let me scroll down. You can see some of them doing just fantastic. Ripple up 69% today. Thank goodness I've still got that one in my portfolio. It actually was up over 100% today. It went from about 46 cents to 95 here recently. So great move up. Let's see. What do you guys are saying? All my people have weird fingers in this picture. Yeah, it's generated AI. They always have weird picture, weird faces. The hands have gotten better, but you're right. This one right here, I'm not quite sure what's going on. Arm looks all weird, but you know what? It's just for aesthetics, just for fun for you guys. All right, so let's run through the top list here of performers. Obviously, Ripple is going to be the big performer because it's the one that won the lawsuit, but that just dragged everything up and I think gave a lot of hope. Now, I have this token on here. Don't ever buy this piece of crap. It's called the Hex coin. It's absolute trash. It's a scam. It's a pump and dump. I only have it here because I was teaching a class on crypto and we were discussing what a true scam looks like, and that is the Hex token. Now, others that are doing very well, Cardano, about 17%. Remember, Cardano is one of these layer one blockchains. One of the owner of it was, or the guy who created it, used to work for Ethereum. He kind of split off and did his own thing. So actually very exciting to see Ripple doing well because it's been just, I don't know, slowly just getting worse and worse and worse. And Charles Hoskinson is one of those guys that's very involved in the community, talking to a lot of politicians and trying to educate our leaders about what is going on in the industry. So you had Cardano, 18% gain today. You had Cody, which is we'll move off from now. Anything really good here? Algorand. So I start to get some other layer ones. And again, these have been just in such decline for so long. It's kind of disheartening to see crypto slide this much, especially something like Algorand, which has really great technology behind it. Just can't seem to get a break. I remember buying this back at 75 cents, and all of a sudden here we are at 11 cents. Yows. Chris Collins, I said, like every YouTuber that talks about Hex or Pulse, garbage. Totally agree. I could not agree with you more. When you dig into it, and we've actually, I think we may have done it on this show, Richard Hart, who looks like one of the biggest scammers in the industry, he'll go into like a Dolce & Gabbana store or a Gucci store and buy like $80,000 worth of handbags and obnoxious clothing, and that's supposed to make people buy his coin. It's a Ponzi scheme. It's the ultimate Ponzi scheme. If you want to see what apparently a legal Ponzi scheme looks like, look at the Hex token. It's a scam. So yeah, Chris, you're right for blocking that guy. He's a total con artist. Anyway, seeing things like Chainlink, I talk about oracles and why I think oracles are so important in the crypto space. They are the ones that provide external data to the blockchain. So having Ripple or Chainlink running about 11% today, great. Solana, another one that I've got a pretty decent holding in. Really happy to see these moves. Now, I could run through each one of them one by one, but I really wanted to start with that lead dog there, which is going to be Bitcoin. So having Bitcoin at that 3.04% gain today, I love it. But remember, we've had this kind of range-bound market. We actually breached it, right? We broke through that upper side today. The peak for today's trading on the Bitcoin future, or actually on the spot price, was 31,818, and the high end of that box I have is 31,760. So it did breach it very briefly, and now we're back into it. What I'm really curious to see is what is the follow-through going to look like over the next week or two, right? Do we start to see companies jump into the fray and become much more open with crypto? Do we see pressure on the SEC to approve Fidelity's, ARK Invest, and BlackRock's spot Bitcoin ETF? I think this is going to add a lot of pressure to that, but I think it adds a nice positive note for regulators. Now, here's the other side to this. No, Gary Gensler did not retire or quit or resign. That was a rumor that was going around, like 3rd of July. There was an AI deepfake that showed Gary Gensler resigning. It didn't happen. However, a lot of times senators, elected officials, congressmen are going to be somewhat reticent about being very aggressive with their takes and viewpoints. But now that the SEC has wasted millions of dollars worth of taxpayers' dollars, made it the focus of the SEC as opposed to actually protecting investors, what you will see now is a lot of elected officials calling for Gary Gensler's resignation, that this was a colossal failure, a waste of time. They shouldn't have been going after it like this. So we will I really feel like you'll see by the end of the year Gary Gensler be replaced. It just feels like so much pressure is mounting to get him out of there. And that's not necessarily meaning it's a good thing, right? It's always about who comes next. But hopefully to be somebody who's a little bit more open-minded with regards to cryptocurrency and digital assets. Today isn't a victory for, it doesn't mean crypto is here to stay forever, but it's certainly a big obstacle to overcome when you beat a federal regulator like the SEC in federal court. That is an amazing feat. I was really kind of skeptical. I did think that they would win eventually, but I thought it would just take longer and longer and longer. As we know, these agencies like the FTC, like the SEC, take their time and they drag their feet as long as possible and try to kill the company. Unfortunately, in this case, they went up against Ripple Labs, which had $40 billion worth of Ripple sitting in their coffers, and they were using that to fund their legal case. So while it cost them a lot of money, they came out victorious, and that was a big catalyst for almost everything to do in crypto markets today. So rejoice for those of you who are in the crypto space. The real question is, how long does this last, right? How long do we see the momentum, or does this create a change in the trajectory of crypto, which has been decisively down for quite some time now? Yeah, contact your congressman regarding Gary. Say, hey, I am pissed off that you guys let this guy waste hundreds of millions. I think that the final number, I don't know what it is for Ripple, but at one point they'd said they'd spent over $500 million fighting this court case. If Ripple's spending that much money, the SEC's spending quite a lot as well. And even if it's half that, even that's $250 million to fight Ripple, I'd much rather that go to, housing homeless veterans, or going back to our public schools and improving schools and giving teachers supplies, stuff that actually matters and helps, as opposed to going after unregistered securities sales. Anyway, don't get me on my soapbox, Margaret. Don't get me on my soapbox. Morning, Kev. Good to see you. Or afternoon. Dog Bones. Merlin, normally when you see a chart like XRP today, you would say it's about to come screaming back downward. I'm curious why you wouldn't say this today. It's a good point. Very good point. And I'm not saying it's not going to come back down. I think it's had just a ridiculous move up. And this is different because Ripple actually had products and services, and they have been stepped on by regulators, right? Regulators have been preventing them from doing business as usual. Now, all of a sudden, by the foot being lifted off of them, it opens the doors to them putting out Ripple for a lot of other services. They've expanded their product line. Do I think it'll come back down? I think it will have a knee-jerk reaction back down. We may actually be seeing it right now because, it was up at 75 or 95 cents, and here we are at 79. So it may not seem like that much, but it's already fallen off of its peak. Let's see, how much did it fall off it? About 17%. So it's already pulled back 17% off its peak. I think it certainly could come down more, but what I do think is you'll see Ripple start to slowly move to the upside. And here's why. Right now in the United States, you cannot buy Ripple on an exchange. Can't buy it on Coinbase, can't buy it on Kraken, can't buy it on Celsius, or can't buy anything on Celsius. Can't buy it on Coinbase, Binance, Kraken, or Gemini, because those exchanges would get in trouble for selling an unregistered securities. The regulators could shut them down. But because now the judge has said it's not an unregistered security, they'll now start to list it. So all of a sudden what you'll get is new buying coming in. And I think that that's why you saw it pop today. People are trying to buy it on swap sites, on DEXs and international exchanges, because what will most likely happen over the next 2 or 3 weeks, we will probably see all 4 of our major exchanges in the US now open the door so that you can buy, sell, and trade Ripple. And I think that brings in a whole lot of new buyers, excited buyers, and maybe people just looking to add to their position. Now, I have a very sizable position in Ripple, so obviously this is great news for me, but I am not adding any to my position. I think I'm weighted enough with my Ripple tokens at this point. So good point, Dog Bones. And if I do look at this chart, I would say it's going to have a pullback. But my fundamental side of this says you have now had such a heavy burden removed from Ripple that there's a lot more upside here. I think there's a great potential for this to start to traverse back to the upside and look good again, especially once it gets listed on Coinbase, Binance, Kraken, and Gemini, which it's already there. You just can't buy or sell it. You can just hold it. Once we get that next piece of regulation, or the next step, will be tradable in the US, and then all of a sudden I think it really starts to soar from there. So there you go. Thank you for the question. MicroStrategy is up over $50 at one point today. I did not watch MicroStrategy, but I mean, obviously with Bitcoin, MicroStrategy is going to have a hell of a run. Oh man, it's funny. Several months back, I was like talking about maybe I should buy some leaps on MicroStrategy just because I think Bitcoin's going to have a nice move, and I'm kicking myself for that one. It's gone from December of last year. It was down around 129. It's now at 456 today. You know who's happy? Michael Saylor. Michael Saylor's got to be absolutely loving it because he's got a boatload of shares of MicroStrategy. Plus, MicroStrategy owns 143,000 Bitcoins, up 250% in 6 months. Wow. Yowzers. Gotta love that. That's awesome. Let's see. Merlin, if you want to create a watch list for crypto, what should I be looking for? Ooh, that's a really good question. So, it's a great question. Obviously, my watch list is all-encompassing, but one of my partners in the crypto investor program I built for Online Trading Academy, Cameron, does an excellent job of taking the world of crypto and breaking it into market segments. For example, he'll have one for oracles, like Band Protocol, Rep, Augur, Chainlink. He'll have Band Protocols, or oracles. Then he'll have things like shared computing sites. It'll be like Render or LivePeer or Golem. And he'll group those subcategories. Layer 1 blockchains like Avalanche, Cardano, Solana, Sui, Aptos. Then he'll go out and look at things like, obviously have a stablecoin section. But you start to fragment by like companies or segments within the crypto space. And then I think what you have to do is you have to take a step back and say, which areas would I like to invest in, right? Which ones do I find appealing? I'm a big fan of the layer ones. I'm a big fan of oracles. I'm a big fan of targeted projects, which are things that are looking to disrupt a specific market segment. So that's how I would go about it. I would find projects I'm interested in, or things that you hear about, right? You might hear about a project, you go, oh, that sounds interesting, and add it to your watch list, all right? I have Hex on this list, which I told you is a total scam. It's absolute garbage. I only have it there because, again, I was teaching and we brought it up. But, for example, I am very interested in data storage on decentralized networks. That's things like Arweave and Storage and Filecoin. So yesterday in one of the crypto classes, I think it was yesterday or the day before, it was yesterday and Wednesday, I actually bought, a little new position in a company called Storage, which is decentralized data backup for digital assets. So, that's just one of the market segments. There's a lot of different market segments out there. Yeah, of course, Mara is going to rip, right? And Mara and Riot, all of these that are holding Bitcoin is just absolutely soaring today. This is it's nice when I look back at some of my articles, like I think I said, are crypto miners the phoenix rising from the ashes? And man, they have just been going gangbusters here lately. There's Riot, here's Mara. Yeah, anything crypto right now this is really a nice green light today that really is acting as a catalyst for a lot of it. Okay, so before I get too long-winded in this part, I could go on for hours. I want to do a segment I haven't done much of. Let me see if I can find a picture of the gentleman, because I'm going to do a donkey of the day, which I don't normally do. Donkey of the day, which looks something like this. So for me, the donkey of the day usually is someone that does something so colossally stupid, you just got to look at him and go, you're a jackass. You're a donkey. I mean, come on, man. Why would you do something that dumb? And, I could make, obviously the person that I despise from Chicago personally should get the permanent donkey of the day every day. But there's other people in the industry that do things that are truly egregious and they should be put in prison. One of those guys, his name is Alex Mashinsky. He's the guy that ran Celsius. He's been not on the run, but today, within 60 minutes, the SEC, the CFTC, and the FTC all filed lawsuits with this guy. He was arrested. He'll be thrown in jail, hopefully. And, I'm glad it happened, because he took hundreds of millions of dollars from people. Joachim, XRP is listed on Coinbase, but you can't buy or sell it. It was blocked from buying it. You can hold XRP on exchanges, but they can't sell you the tokens because it would be illegal to sell an unregistered security. So it's already listed there. They'll turn on the spigot. Now you can buy it at Coinbase and probably the other exchanges as well. Anyway, Alex Mashinsky gets my donkey of the day. I don't know if you guys have been following me on Twitter this morning. I usually am not a big Twitter fan, but I guess if I'm going to grow my audience, I should be more on social media, so I will probably do more of that. Alex Mashinsky, again, was arrested and being sued by all these people, and I tweeted out this morning, I would love it if Alex Mashinsky, Do Kwon, who did Terra Labs and basically created a $60 billion implosion in cryptocurrency in about 5 days, and you could also add in Sam Bankman-Fried, put them all in a cell together, an 8x10 cell block, and let them reminisce about their glory days as we get to live out in the free world. Kind of blows my mind. Anyway, I had to throw a donkey of the day in there. Alex Mashinsky. You want to put a name to the face? Let's see if I can pull up a picture over here for you. I think this might be a picture of him. Yeah, there we go. There's Alex Mashinsky. If you watch some of his older stuff, it's really kind of comical. He was on a panel one time going, "We're the savior for America. We are the savior for the world. You just put your money in our bank account in with Celsius, and you earn 7%. You're not going to get that at your bank." And he says, if every single American did that, they'd all be making 7%, and the bank wouldn't be making any money. It's like, but do you realize that when we put the money in there, you're paying us 7%. Someone's got to be paying you more money than 7% for it all to work. So a Ponzi scheme, Bernie Madoff, if you will, but let's get him locked up. Good to see that happen today. It made my day. I had the Ripple beating the SEC. I saw crypto markets soar. I saw silver going absolutely gangbusters today, which is great for me. And Mashinsky go to jail. It was great. All right, let me see. Oliver says, Filecoin, I heard about that coin, and music artist Nipsey Hussle talked about the coin years ago and had a big stake in it before he passed away. Yeah, it's just a place to store your music. And again, one of the things I like about this data storage, let me help people understand why you'd want to use something like Arweave or Storage or Filecoin. They're decentralized data storage. Now, right now, if you have your money on the cloud, whoever's cloud that is, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Apple, I don't care what cloud it is, you are now subject to censorship. You're subject to a lack of privacy. Right? They have absolute control over that data and information. If they choose to sell those nudies that you posted on your photo site that you have in a secret file on your cloud server, they wanted to, they could take that, disseminate it, whatever they want to do with it. You don't have a say in that matter. Of course, you could sue them for distributing those pictures. However, that information can be viewed by others. They also have the ability to prevent you from accessing your sites, your cloud servers, your data servers, whatever. They can censor you because they are the centralized entity. with Filecoin, Arweave, storage. It's decentralized. No one person controls that information, and therefore it's censorship resistant, not proof, depends on the protocol. But now, if I'm looking to store data, I'd rather have my data on a site that I know is secure. It's anonymous, so no one can go and scour through my data because it'll be all encrypted on the sites that it's stored at. And it's going to be censorship resistant. So I don't have to worry about somebody saying, hey, again, you posted that tweet the other day, we're going to block your access to your storage device. They can do that if they're centralized. Decentralized don't have that. So again, just one of the little market segments that I was looking at within that crypto space that I think has some opportunity. As you will see here, let me bring up Arweave. I'll add Arweave on here. Hey, Pepe, good to see you. I'm going to add Arweave on here. I may have it. AR, crypto, and that's the biggest exchange. So I already have it on the list. Let's add in storage just so you can look at those two. You want to look at my face like here as I do it on TradingView. STORJ. Oops. Gotta love when I have the wrong thing clicked. STORJ. All right, there we go. So we'll go storage. Tether on Binance is the big exchange. So I guess I already have that one added in. All right. So just so we can see what those have done. They have not performed very well, by the way. So here's storage. Down 1.39%. Surprisingly, it's one of the few that's down today. And that's the one I bought yesterday, so convenient. I bought it because it was on a pretty big dip, and I thought Arweave might have some problems, so I moved away from it. But obviously, ugly times for storage. But as digital assets become more prominent, I think that it could be more beneficial to have decentralized offline storage. That's storage. And then the other one that we reviewed in our application session was Arweave. There you go. I mean, look at this. Was it $90 in 2021, and now it's trading at $6. So, there is definitely some value here if they can make it, if they can survive. Really enjoying my 200 ounces of physical silver I purchased in the past few months. Absolutely, Joe. Now, I actually don't own any physical silver. I own some physical gold, but let's just check out GLD today. When you look at what happened in today's markets, a lot of this happening because the dollar index just keeps on dropping. We have now broken the parity mark, right? Not parity mark, but the 100 mark. Now it feels like we could see a lot further downside move here in the dollar, which is why some of these commodities are absolutely ripping today. We'll just do GLD, which is the ETF for gold. Gold today finishing at 1963 is where the futures are at right now. And you've had a huge run. Over the last 2 weeks, gold has had a pretty nice pop from the lows of right around 175 for the ETF, 3.54% in 9 trading sessions. But look at silver. Obviously, silver is my largest holding by a good margin right now. And from lows to peak where we are right now, it's up 11.39% in the same period where gold is only up 3.5%. Now, I had one position on silver left that I did not sell covered calls against, so I actually sold covered calls today. I collected, it was 28 or 29 cents worth of premium on my SLV, but I sold the 24s, which for me, I'm fine. I mean, if I got out at 24, I'd be happy with that. It'd be a phenomenal gain because my average price was 21. So happy to have that, and great rally going on here. Most of the other silver I have, I sold calls against my position at 22, and I sold some at 22.50. So we'll see what happens here over the next couple days. Might see some of my silver get taken away, but I doubt that this last position will get taken away. I sold the August 18th calls against that position at $24. So collected over 1% premium extra. If it gets there, awesome. If it doesn't, fine with me. I'll keep my premium and be happy with my 1% rate of return for nothing. Okay, what else did I have? Let's see. Oh, so let me read you what the judge said about the Ripple thing. I know I'm kind of going back and forth and jumping all over the place. I apologize. The excitement for today and just a lot of stuff going on. Here's the actual judge part of the verdict, right? Part of the reading. I thought that this was noteworthy. It says, therefore, having considered the economic reality and totality of circumstances, the court concludes that Ripple's programmatic sales of XRP did not constitute the offer and sale of investment contracts. And there it's like, oh, that's the piece that has really everybody just kind of overjoyed today. So glad to see that. Again, the more the merrier to keep that crypto market moving to the upside, and I'll be content. Personally, I thought that we would see the markets be rather choppy up until about May of next year. May of next year is when Bitcoin has its next halving, meaning the rewards for miners gets cut in half from 6.25 to 3.125, which means the supply is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So as demand increases, supply goes down, price is going to go parabolic, and I think you'll probably see that happen from between May of next year and November of 2025 is where you're going to have the monumental move up in Bitcoin, to which I think you'll get to 250,000, possibly even higher than that. I'm sure Big Ab, who's holding Bitcoin, probably likes music to your ears, right? Gas here in Houston is 285. Oh, it is if you drive, right? I don't really drive much, so gas could be $8. I wouldn't really mind. I wouldn't mind. Rob G says sometimes the courts get it right. They do, and you know what's really interesting is quite often when you have a federal agency suing private entities, usually federal wins. And there, I believe, my gut just makes me, I want to believe it's fair and transparent, but typically I'm such a conspiracy theorist out there and pessimist. I believe that the judge is going to give a little bit of extra credence to, or benefit of the doubt, to the government that's suing the other person. But in this case, glad to see. It was like I was applauding, and I couldn't believe when I saw it this morning. I was like, wow, that is great. And of course, you look over at the chart of Ripple, and you're like, whoa, yeah, obviously people feeling pretty good about that one. Okay, let's go run through our top 7 here just so we can get that out of the way. It might be a little bit shorter show today, but our worst performer and catalyst for the market. Really did not see this market ripping as much as it has. It's been this dollar. The dollar just absolutely tanking. We talked about its performance yesterday, which has been absolutely dismal from the peaks that we saw on July 6th. It's been like the firework crashing to the ground, down 3.7% in 5 trading sessions. That doesn't seem like much for anybody who's in crypto, but this is the value of the US dollar against a huge basket of currencies around the world, including the euro, the British pound, the Japanese yen, Swedish krona. This is really, really significant watching how weak this dollar has gotten. Now, I'm pretty disappointed because I'm going to be doing some traveling here soon. And I was kind of hoping when I go travel that the value of those currencies would be doing better. I didn't want to see this drop right here in the Japanese yen. USD JP yen been tanking over the past same 5 sessions. I'll go from the peak to where we are right now on that USD JP yen, down about 4.9%. So there goes purchasing power. Yeah, exactly, Simon. Dropping like a rock. A lot of that having to do, I believe, with the rising rate environment. Right? As you raise rates, usually the dollar will be going up. And I think what this is reflecting, at least for me, is that there might be a change of sentiment here. Now, we've talked about the Fed funds futures over and over and over again. However, that really hasn't had much of a change. And again, I am still in the camp that they're going to keep rates right where they're at least for another meeting until we see the data. But apparently the Fed funds futures traders, they're set. They think that July 26th meeting, 92% chance we're going to have a raise of 25 basis points. It doesn't make sense to me that they would do that, right? You want to stimulate this economy, get it back on track, and really have a nice pop for it. To do that, you would hold rates right where they're at because inflation has been dropping like a rock as well. I'd argue, Simon, that the inflation numbers have been falling faster than the dollar. They've been coming down dramatically, and I can show you that data here. Here is your PPI numbers. So today, your PPI number actually went up a little bit, right? We came up from negative 0.4. Let me zoom in a hair here so you guys can maybe see a little bit better. Yeah, not going to work. Now, of course, I'm just messing everything up. Sorry about that. Let's go down to Thursday. And there's your PPI number, right? So we went from negative 0.4, which was great, right? We want to see producers' prices dropping because typically that should get passed on to, you did, Big Ab. I was even giving you a shout out. I gave you a shout out, talked all kinds of good stuff. Slacker. That's what you get. That's what you get, buddy. Anyway, hope you're doing well down in San Diego. I went from negative 0.4 to a positive 0.1. And you're like, oh, no, we're positive again. Look, positive is okay. If we came out at a month-over-month positive of 0.1, times that by 12, that means you'd have a PPI number of 1.2% for the year, which is way below the expectation. And if you look back on this chart historically, everybody, having a 0.1, we'd love to have it at 0.1. That's historically really low. Even if I put my cursor up here, right, let's say 0.5%. I mean, look at all the data points above that. So maybe 0.4 is kind of the high side. Remember, 0.4, if you times that by 12, because this is a monthly reading, you would get 4.8%. Well, that'd be a little high. But at 0.1, you're definitely below the Fed's mandate. If we got to 0.2 and did that with consistency, that's right where the Fed wants to be, right where it wants to be. So I look at today's number, even though it jumped up, rather positive thing. This to me further bolsters the argument that the Fed should not raise at the next meeting, and mainly because the most important one here is the CPI number year over year. And here is your number. I mean, look how quickly that thing's fallen. That's incredible. It alternates between positive and negative. Okay, so good question. Let me zoom out a hair here because this chart gets all messed up. There we go. That's better for me. So let's go look at the PPI number, which Margaret was asking about. So that was CPI, which is Consumer Price Index. Here is PPI. And she says it oscillates above and below that zero line. What does that mean? So if it's above this zero line, it means that the prices for producers are increasing over time. And that's typical, right? The Fed has said they're targeting a 2% inflation rate. So you would expect PPI to be around 0.2% consistently. And what each of these little blips on the radar here, I'll zoom in a little bit here so we can make it easy. Each of these little bars represents the previous month's activity. So on this bar right now that we see here for July, that's telling us what happened in June, right? It's late. I think it's June. I'm pretty sure it's June. I obviously can't be July because we're not pat through July yet. So I think that that's the end of the month of June. So they saw prices tick up ever so slightly in the month of June, whereas for the month of May, prices actually showed a decline of 0.4%. So that's really all that it's representing, is that month-over-month change in prices for producers. And you can see here when we had our really high inflationary period because of all that spending they did in 2020, we had some really high numbers. I mean, we peaked out at 1.4% for 1 month, right? So now you got to annualize that. If we say 1.4% and it times that by 12, right? I'll put the calculator out here for everybody, make it easy. You go 1.4 times 12, you're looking at 16.8% inflation in producer price index numbers. That would be insane to have a number that high. But that was just 1 point data, right? 1 month. So really what this PPI, what we're looking for is consistency. We like to see 12 bars between 0.1 and 0.2. We're right where the Fed wants to be if we get the next 12 there. So what they'll do is they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So right here, this first drop in August of 2022, if you take all of those and average them out, that will give you the average PPI number or producer price index number. Now, that number is most likely going to be lower than what you're going to get for the CPI. So here's the same thing for CPI. And you notice that if we go back that same 12, right, our most recent reading was 0.2. But we've also had a 0.4, another 0.4, a 0.5, a couple more 0.4s. So again, if we average the 0.4s, that's going to give us 4.8% CPI inflation year over year. That's obviously way too high. But because we're starting to get these lower ones in here, and we've now officially dropped off this big guy. You see this big spike here in July? That big spike here in July of 1.3%. That's now no longer part of the year-over-year calculation because that month just dropped out. That's 13 bars ago. We don't care about that anymore. It's the last 12. It's kind of like a moving average, right? CPI is taking the moving average over the last 12 bars, which is a monthly bar of the CPI data. So that giant spike, which skewed the data, is now out of the calculation. It drops down. It dropped down significantly, and therefore we saw that big drop from expectations of 3.1 to 3.0. Great. Gold line is the expectation. Yeah, so what's really kind of cool on Forex Factor here, you see at the top it has actual and forecast. So if I turn off the forecast, it takes away all those little dash marks, those gold dashes. I think they're gold. Since you said gold, I'll now call it gold. I've always questioned what color that is. So thanks, Margaret, for helping me with my color blindness. It's gold. You can turn off the forecast and just keep the actual number. But I like to see kind of how they do, how they anticipate, how they're, what their targets are. So this is really the real number. And then you can actually take that off as well and just keep the forecast. But it doesn't look as good. The actual really, to me, is much more important. No problem, Simon. And thank you, Margaret, for the question. Sometimes I take for granted different things with regards to these charts and I look at them. So if you guys ever have questions, feel free to ask away. Dave says, does the PPI reflect that producers are making tons of profit while inflation is dropping? No. So the economy is fine, showing that slowing the economy would be a good thing. Not necessarily. I don't think it gives you that information. What it says is, for them, the cost of their goods and services that they're consuming to make other goods and services, to produce these things, that cost has been declining. Now, we can extrapolate from that data, right? If I know that I'm selling you a product for $100 per item, right? So whatever it is, it's Merlin's widgets. I'm selling you a $100 item. And me as the producer, cost me $50, right? So I got a 100% markup. I'm happy with that. But if all of a sudden, people are tracking what it's costing me to make that product, and my cost goes down to $40, right? I see a 10% slide in my, or 20% slide in my cost. Do I now drop the price that I'm charging you, the consumer, or do I make more money? You all know the answer, right? And you're going to keep charging the $100 to the consumer because you're still paying it. Now, if for some reason my sales, let's say I sold 1,000 units a month, and all of a sudden those sales went to 500 units a month at $100, my profit margin's bigger, but I'm not selling as many. I may actually start to cut the price I'm selling it at to get my quantity of sales up. So this is that little dance that goes on with producers and consumers. There is no concrete relation there, but it is interesting to see these numbers like this. So let me bring up real quick. You can see the CPI number this previous month grew at 0.2%. Well, we can go down here and look at the PPI number. It grew at 0.1. So just based off that, that's 0.1% more profit for producers. Right? Their prices aren't rising as fast as consumers. So clearly, the producers are passing that on to the consumers. That's the basic deduction we can make between PPI and CPI. Overall, we want to be seeing these numbers decline, so we get back to that 2% mandate. That means the Fed can now put the pedal to the metal and juice this market even more. And then that begs the question, do we see all-time highs here? Do we see this market rip back up and make all-time highs yet again? Oh man, Bitcoin's just about to break 32,000. That could very well happen where we see these markets rip back up and break all-time highs. That breakout that we had on SPY looks beautiful. We are a ways away. 48.02 is our high, and we're currently at 45.43. We could very easily see it challenge those highs, especially if the Fed on the 26th says we're going to pause for a second time because the data is starting to look a little bit better. This market's going to rip to the upside. And I have a feeling that's a very real possibility. It's unfortunate because I have a few things long right now, but not a lot. Not as loaded as I would want to be long in a situation like that, but better safe than sorry is the way I like to play it. So let's start at the bottom. We did that dollar index tanking, looking horrifically bad right now. We'll see if that changes or if it starts to pick up momentum because it's now broken all the demand zones that we see on this chart until we get down to about 90, call it 98. So that's a significant drop from here. 10-year continue to slide as well. We had talked about it pulling back into this 384 mark. Well, we knifed right through that today. Now I think you're going to be looking at that 370, right? Looking back and getting down towards that 370 mark for the 10-year. I think you really want to see this 10-year move up. It's either we want the 10-year to move up or we want the short end of the yield curve to start to come down. And that may start to happen next year, but this yield curve being inverted for so long, I've never seen it. I don't know what the final outcome is going to be, but I don't believe it's going to be good if this yield curve stays inverted as long as it is. Here is the yield curve for you guys. This is the 10 and the 2. It's been inverted for over a year. That's bizarre. Most of the inverted yield curves I've seen have been very short-lived. So let me go to a monthly here and see if I can show you other ones. All right, so here's the previous 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, call it 6. They might sit down there for a couple months. The time it dropped below and became inverted back in 1988 was November of 88, and it fixed itself in about a year and a half, April of 1990. It tiptoed below it in 1998, again, just barely in May, recovered in August. It fell down below inversion, or it inverted in January of 2000. It fixed itself in December, called a year, 1 year of inversion. Same thing back here. We saw it in 2005. It went inverted in December of 2005, and it fully fixed itself in May of 2007. So that was, almost 2 years. Well, none of those have the depth and length of what we're experiencing right now. So it actually inverted back here. This is April. It's actually inverted a couple times. It inverted in April for like 1 month. It bounced back up, and then the real break happened in July of 2022. So we have been inverted for a year, but it's the magnitude of the inversion. That to me is going to start to mess up your typical economic cycles are going to change because it's been inverted for so long. Okay, sorry. What did Dave say? Gotcha. Comparing the CPI and PPI and the broad market soaring while the dollar drops. I would think that the economy is ready for another bull run until the previous rate increases catch up. Agreed. It feels like that's where we're headed. It feels like the Fed's going to back off the pedal. The data is already showing that there's improvement on the CPI, the PPI. The unemployment numbers haven't started to surge. My fear is that we're going to have another parabolic move to the upside, because what I think will happen from that is then you have an even bigger fall. Right? I do believe that a natural market that's not manipulated by the government, not manipulated by the central banks or the treasury departments, should have a steeper correction. We shouldn't have price charts over the long period of time that look like this without a significant pullback, right? Back here in 2000, those were kind of normal markets. Now all of a sudden we've got these just monstrous moves that haven't really had a big pullback. And I know, let's go, oh, this is the contract changes. Slightly, I was going to go put it on logarithmic, but this is on a weekly. Let's go to daily. Anyway, it kind of makes me nervous that this is that strong with that much money being printed in. It just feels like there's setting up for a bigger disaster, but it is what it is. For now, it's working. So ride that move to the upside. Fortunately, I'm not really long on equities. So I have some puts that I've sold. I've been collecting premium along the way, but not getting big gains. My big gains have been coming from crypto and from commodities like gold and silver. All right, I think that's going to do it. The biggest pump and dump of all time. I agree, John. Massive pump and dump. Crazy at how big this pump and dump is. All right, let's go look and see what's happening for your economic calendar for Friday. Here it is. For the U.S., you've got import prices. You've got the University of Michigan consumer sentiment. They put this, it's funny because they put this as a red factory, meaning it's really important. I don't believe it is. I don't believe it. This is consumer sentiment. They survey a whole bunch of people and say, how do you feel about the markets? How do you feel about the economy? Well, obviously, it's been declining, but I don't know. I just don't put a lot of emphasis on this one at all. I used to when I first started because my mentor was like, oh, you got to pay attention. It's really important. And then, didn't really do much for me. And lastly, let's go and bring up your earnings calendar for Friday, because that's where the excitement lies for tomorrow. I find myself rubbing my hands together like Gollum, feeling like my precious. Here's the stuff that happened today, and then I'll go into tomorrow. You see that Delta Airlines beat today. You had Progressive missed, and they missed pretty handily, down 13% on the day. PepsiCo, they beat. ConAgra Brands beat. So that was some of your bigger names out there. But really, it's all about these 11 earnings reporting tomorrow. And those earnings are JP Morgan Chase. Dun, 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 dun. I feel like I should have some ominous music playing right there, like the Death March by Star Wars. Dun, 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 dun. JP Morgan will be reporting earnings tomorrow. Sorry, I'm not even having whiskey today. This is just high on life. United Health Group, Citigroup, BlackRock. So you've got really the two villains. You got BlackRock, which is the rules everything. They're reporting earnings before the market opens, and you have JP Morgan reporting earnings before market, as well as Citigroup. So it'll be, and Wells Fargo, and State Street. I mean, it's really interesting to see how many financial firms are reporting tomorrow. I'll sort them by market cap. So just with JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, BlackRock, you're looking at about and Citigroup, about a $700 billion worth of market cap. And then United Health Group is another $430 billion market cap. So there's some major market movers out there tomorrow that will be fun for our markets, to be sure. Before COVID, what was the normal premium over spot for silver? Well, don't know off the top of my head. I don't know. I can't bring up the Dixie for the dollar index. Usually, Larry, you have to use a dollar sign. So it's got to be like a dollar sign DXY. Sometimes it's a pound DXY. Are you looking? It really depends on which application you're using. But with almost every platform, there's a symbol lookup. Just type in the dollar index. It'd be under an index, not an ETF. Make sure that's correct. One of the banks forecasts 125,000 by year end 20. Yeah, you know what's funny, Big Eb? I forget that it was like Community Bank or something. Community Bank also forecasted it by July of 2024, Bitcoin would be at $5,000. And now they flipped and said it's going to be 125,000 by 2024. I hope they're right this time. I hope they're right this time. Where am I going for vacation? I am going to be going to Jamaica in September, and then I'm working potentially on going to Japan and Thailand in November. But we'll see what happens. So Larry, if you're in TradingView and you can't get DXY, it's simple. You just go here, click on your chart, and just type in DXY. You see how I have it on the crypto tab over here. If you click on all, it'll show you right away the different ones. There's DXY, that's a dollar currency index. You can go to indices, and there's your dollar currency index as well. These are actually traded on different exchanges. Let me see which ones I've got here. What's it traded on? Yeah, I've got this through the TVC. I'm not sure what the TVC is, but that's the one that I was using for the dollar index. There you go. Maybe Japan. I haven't settled on it. Don't get all excited. Determined. Bring on the ramen museum. Yeah, I have to stand on the scale before I leave because I'm sure that all the ramen in Japan would be gut-wrenching. I love ramen, but man, a ramen museum. So apparently they got a museum there that has got 15 different types of ramen, and oh boy, sodium overload. I don't mind Thai. I would go to Taiwan. I go to Taiwan. I go to Korea. I don't mind it. I go to any of these places, man. Just as long. I think there's only a couple countries I would not want to go to right now, and I won't go to. For the most part, I think if you go to a country and you respect the people, you respect the culture, you don't come across as a pompous ass American, most people really respect you, and it's fun to travel. Haven't done it a lot. I have some anxiety issues, but hopefully we'll get past those ones on these next couple flights. But Jamaica will be fun. Funny because I don't even smoke anymore. It's like, I'm going to Jamaica, man. By the way, trivia question for you. I know some of you probably were in the workshop that I did for Money Show yesterday. Yeah, I'm not going to go to Russia right now. It's very interesting. We talked about central bank digital currencies, and there's so many countries around the world right now. I think of 130 countries around the world right now are actively working on a central bank digital currency, including the United States, including Canada. There are 3 countries around the world that currently have a fully implemented central bank digital currency. And which country is it, guys? Give me one of the countries. If you saw the webinar yesterday, don't type it in if you know the answer. But if you haven't heard it before, type it in. I'm curious to see what you guys think. Which countries have a central bank digital currency fully implemented? Not in beta test, not a prototype, not researching, but they're using it and it's implemented. Name a country. It's really surprising to me because while I'm stalling here so you guys can type in some answers, what most of you are probably going to put is China, right? A lot of people going China, because China has one in research prototype. There is a prototype right now for China that it has 300 million people in it, right? So it's pretty much got the population of the United States using a system, but it's not rolled out officially. It's not officially fully implemented. The first country, this is going to be a surprise to a lot of you. Here's your useless trivia for the day. The first country ever in the history of the world to have a fully central bank digital currency, it's called the Bahamian Sand Dollar, and it's the Bahamas. Number 1. Not crazy, the Bahamas, right? Number 2 is Nigeria. They have their Inaria, it's a weird name, but they were number 2. And number 3, even more astounding, is down there the bumble clock, you go to Jamaica, they got the giant, you smoke the reefer, man. They have the giant weed, they got great beaches, and they have a central bank digital currency, man. They're the 3rd country in the world to have a central bank digital currency. Blew my mind to find out that Jamaica beat America to the punch. Jamaica beat America to digitizing their money. That it's kind of embarrassing because we are the financial powerhouse that makes the world go round. And here we have the Bahamas, Nigeria, and Jamaica beat us to the punch. Anyway, thought I'd throw that useless trivia out there for you since now I'm hosting trivia, my side gig for fun. I know you would never have guessed, neither would I. If you said, Merlin, I'll give you $1 million if you can guess the first country to have a fully central bank digital currency, I probably would have said China. But China is not officially out there. It's just a prototype right now. Granted, there's 300 million people using it. So can you use any kind of cash? No, you can. They haven't eliminated cash. Oh, my eyes watering. They haven't eliminated it. They're just using that system, right? And I think what will happen is they'll see how well it goes. Personally, what I believe is you have the IMF, so the International Monetary Fund, you've got central banks around the world are watching the Bahamas, which is not a major economic powerhouse, Nigeria, same thing, and Jamaica. I mean, come on, what's Jamaica exporting, right? Rum, music, talent, but not really, they're not known for their chip making, they're not known for their oil production, they're not known for, major textiles. So it's still not the best test of a central bank digital currency, but it is interesting to see what they do in their countries respectively with that central bank digital currency. Anyway, kidnapping, is that their big export, is kidnapping? I really hope that doesn't happen. Elon likes ganja and crypto. Right, well, he may just buy Jamaica. There's a guy who's got a parody account for Elon Musk, and I think Elon Musk actually might have something to do with it because he's got millions of followers. Anyway, he said, I was thinking that Tesla should make a cell phone. If I created a Tesla cell phone, would you guys buy it? And I was like, oh boy, here we go. Now Elon Musk will start a whole cell phone company. All right, I'm gonna wrap up. I'm not going to say it, John. I won't say a word that I don't know what it is, so I can't say that word right now. But anyway, that's going to do it for me for today, guys. I went way longer than I thought. I thought this would be a 30-minute show today. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're as excited as me because we saw Goliath go down today. David beat the daylights out of Goliath today. Gave him a black eye. We'll see if that extends into the crypto world and get a further prolonged rally out of this, which I do think you'll see more upside movement in crypto. Not ballistic, but at least more positivity coming into the industry. I think the SEC is going to back down a little bit. I also think that regulators are going to put pressure to get Gensler out of office, which will probably happen by the end of the year. That, my friends, is your show for today. I will see you on our Friday show, where hopefully I'll be even more animated because I will have a glorious celebratory glass of whiskey. I will see you all then. Take care, everybody. I forgot to say, I never promote myself. If you like the show, hit the like button, share the show, and bring new people into the fold. It'll help this thing grow. Talk to you guys later.